Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Can't you hear?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Right. Okay. I think you all can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Yeah. Then we can start the lesson today. Right. We have 18 people here. Okay. We have to continue the same topic, philosophy and education or educational philosophy. Right. Yeah. First of all, I want you all to revise whatever you. So, right. I want your answers to this question. What is it? Why do you study educational philosophy? Can you just send me your answers quickly to the chat box? Why do we learn educational philosophy? Yes, quickly think because we discussed a lot on educational philosophy and philosophical ideas, how it is important, hmm, like that. Yes. Quickly word your ideas now, or you may unmute and just tell me. Don't tell me that it is only for the purpose of the examination, right? Yes, as teachers, we learn educational philosophy. Okay, very good. Thank you. That's Sumeya, right? Yes. Okay, good. You all can read it if you want. Yes, we have to understand the goals and values of education, right? Others, please. Yes, no idea? Right. Yeah. Approach. That means you can select the best approach for your teaching. Right. You won't be narrow-minded and you will think broadly and you will think of the students as well. A basis for understanding the nature and the purpose of education. Yes, right. Others, please. Can't you think why we learn this subject? Right. Let's get these ideas now. Understanding the foundations of modern educational practices. Yes, you may understand the best practices, right? Then Philip says provides a basis for. All right, okay, the same. Sorry. Right. Then gaining insights into perennial debates about the purpose and methods of education. Right? You can understand the foundation of education, and then you get the, as some of you said, purpose and methods of education. Then you will be able to appreciate the influence of historical thinkers on contemporary pedagogy. Now I gave you 2, 3 examples. You about the historical philosophers, right? Then we can get the influence of their ideas on our current situation. That means the present teaching, learning process, right? Contemporary pedagogy. Developing a critical perspective on current educational challenges. Yeah, you know, everywhere we face challenges in your life, in your teaching career, maybe getting the job, getting transfer, right? Developing a critical perspective. That means you won't have to think of, you don't have to think of only one aspect of a challenge or the problem you face, right? Then you will be able to understand it, you will be able to think, and you find a solution to each and every problem you face, each and every challenge in your life, right? Recognizing the evolving nature of learning and societal needs. Yeah, nature of learning. You know, whenever we discuss education things, we are repeating the same thing at times in life, right? Recognize the nature, evolving nature of learning and the needs of the society, right? Then according to the needs of the society, the needs of the students, you plan the lessons so you understand the you consideration and you practice your teaching at school, right? So then things are more uh, why a teacher should learn educational philosophy. Please understand that you have to think critically, you have to be creative, you should have educational practices, the best approaches, right? And we have to get the influence, we have to get the ideas of the great philosophers, great thinkers, right? And those things are very important for your career. Right. Now, the ancient world laying the groundwork, the foundation, right? You know, from the beginning of our civilization, the thought of education, right? We learn how people started, especially in Sri Lanka, the beginning it was an oral method, right? Then people from mouth to mouth, they started education. You know, when you study history of education, the education started at the temples, and maybe before that there was Guru Gedara, and those days the students had to focus on imitation, right? That means imitating people, right? Focus on the key characteristics of the ancient world. The youth was based on skills and moral development. Culture. Yes. Was limited for the elite class. You know, upper class, right? In any sort of reading, writing, and type of education was limited only to elite people. All the others just learned the practical skills and the good things, bad things in the society, norms and ethics in the society, at the same time, the culture and the cultural values. Right? Now, when we study ancient civilizations and their philosophies, the most influential ones are, right? In ancient Egypt, their emphasis was on vocational religious instruction and scribal skills. Okay. Then in Greece, the Western educational philosophy, right? We consider it as Western education philosophy, its birthplace. Right. Any problem? Right. Now only I see some of your messages. Okay, thank you for your enthusiasm. Basis for understanding the teacher, develop the teacher. Right. Okay. If you can't hear me, just send me a message. If there's any interruption, you can just send a message to the chat box, right? Then the ancient era laid the foundation, and after that, little by little, we started the modern educational philosophy, right? Now, based on the ancient era, their ideas and what they did and what they suggested, we started working on them. That means working on their ideas, their philosophies, but from time to time, the philosophy of education is changing. That means we don't change some theories, but we have to get, maybe we are in a fast moving world, and then from time to time we get the ideas of great philosophers. Okay, right. Now we all understand we need philosophy to get the correct decision, to think of the educational theories, to plan our lessons, understand the value of education and the purpose of education. All these ideas are important. Right. Now, earlier we understood that the ancient philosophies, they focus their attention on the society. But little by little, when it comes to modern philosophy, modern education philosophy, then we focus our attention on the individual, right? So, at the very beginning, they think of the ideal society, right? But modern thoughts, modern philosophies, they think about the individual learner, right? The needs of the learner, their capabilities or their interests. Then, next one is emphasis on experience and activity. Yes, nowadays we always focus on active learning in the classroom, active participation of the learner, and experiential learning, not the traditional ways of learning. So, everything is changing, right? Then, education, democratization of education, right? Then accessible to all people. That means education is available, making education available to not only to the elite class, not only to the upper class people, it, but for each and every child, right? In a country, in the society, right? That becomes a human right. Okay. Then psychology and social sciences, those subjects influence educational philosophy, right? Because in psychology we learn different learning theories about child development. And in sociology, we learn about social influences on learning, equity, equality, how we have to behave towards the society, how we have to be in the society, how we have to respect and accept each other's ideas like that. Social influences are very important, and psychology is also important, right? Then, diverse perspectives. Philosophy focuses its attention on education, right? The modern ideas are pragmatism, existentialism, critical theory, and feminism as well, right? Those diverse means different angles of thinking about education. So then more and more things are coming in, more and more things are added to educational philosophy. Right. Let's try to listen to some more ideas on education. Just give me 2-3 minutes. Let's listen to this, and I think you will be able to get more ideas because I want everyone to understand this subject because there's nothing much for you to study. Only thing is your understanding. If you understand what we discuss here so far, or discussed and discussing here, and then you can think of your own philosophy at the same time, the evolution of education philosophy. Right, I have to share this, right? Okay, just wait. I'll share another video. Right. Let's watch this. Right. Education, goals, forms, methods, and meaning. Right. Right. To instill students with the essentials of academic knowledge, enacting a back to basic approach. Okay. Perennial means lasting for many years, right? Yes.
Madam, in the video, we can't hear, madam.
Yeah.
We can't hear anything, madam. In the video, we can see the pictures, but we can't hear anything.
Uh-huh. Why is that? Can you hear now?
No, ma'am.
Philip, can you hear?
No,
No,
ma'am. We
madam.
can hear.
No, only you can just watch, right?
Yes, madam. We can see the
Ah,
pictures only, madam.
Ah, right, right. Can you hear now? Hello? Hello, can you hear now?
Madam,
No,
no.
madam.
No?
No, madam, we can't hear.
They can't hear. Right, okay. Now, if you can't hear this, you can just watch now. Later on, I'll give you the link and I'll just share the PowerPoint presentation. Then I think later on you will be able to listen to that. Okay? Right. Now just let's watch this.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. And um, you couldn't hear the voice, but anyway, you could get an idea about different concepts, different philosophies, right? And what they mean and how they focus attention on education. Okay, this is just an idea for you all to think, and you can just, I think, little by little, you will be all right. You will understand the importance of these ideas for the purpose of education. Okay, right. Then we have to just once again think of the timeline of the evolution of educational philosophy. Now, I spoke to you about the very ancient era and how they focused on the society. And later on, we focused on the individuals. So then let's speak about how this is improved, how this is developed. That means the development of educational philosophy. Okay, right. I think you should get this basic idea about how we speak about the different eras in our civilizations. Now, normally we say BC, Christ, but BCE stands for before the common era, right? Because before Christ means something related to one religion. Because of that, there's another term called BCE, that is, we are telling before the common era, but the same thing, right? Yes. And CE stands for common era, that is just like AD. I think you all have learned or heard about AD, Anno Domini, that means after the birth of Jesus Christ, right? So this is how we speak about the timeline and speak about different eras. So please try to understand and remember how we just speak about the different years in the past. Right, like this. We have to think of ancient period from 6th century BC or BCE to 5th century. The medieval period, 5th century to 15th century. Modern period, even though it's long ago, we have to just accept that the term modern period, 16th century to 19th century, and 20th and 21st century. So this is how we just categorize the different eras, right? So this is a general overview. That means generally we can just guess like this. We can just speak like this. But there's no clear-cut differences, right? Please understand that, now we spoke about the philosophers and we just think of the time duration. And there might be overlaps, but you can get a general idea how the educational philosophy evolved from the past, right? And it's an ongoing process, it's a continuous process, right? Then new things are emerging, new ideas are coming in, right? Because the world is changing in all aspects of its developments, right? Now social development, cultural, technological, and some other aspects as well. So we have to understand, with all these changes, with all these developments, educational philosophy is also developing and changing. Right. Now, this is the ancient period. Right. Now, what is the main main ideas of ancient period? Can you just read this and tell me? That's during 6th century to 5th century. Okay. Yes. According to the evidence, we can just understand that those days the emphasis was on social ethics, right?
Excuse
And
me, ma'am.
persons. Huh?
Ma'am, we can't see.
Yes.
We can't see that your slide, ma'am. The video only is showing, ma'am.
Right, right. Sorry. Just wait. Then I have to. Sorry, I thought I have shared both. Mm, Okay. Now you can see, right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Sorry, I think you didn't see this.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Now you can understand the different eras in the past. BCE stands for before the common era, or we just say before Christ. And CE for the common era, or AD, they are the same. That is for the common era, or the Anno Domini, we say just after the Jesus Christ birth, right? Yes. People use this differently. Some people use BCE, BC. Some people use CE or AD. I think both are accepted, and we should know as teachers of English how we use these, right? Okay. Then these are the different periods, right? Ancient, medieval, modern, and 20th and 21st centuries, right? This is just a general idea for we all to understand. And according to the available evidence, we just understand ancient period is from 6th to 5th century, like that. And with the change of the world, and educational philosophy is also changing. It is a continuous process. It's an ongoing process, right? So day by day, new things are coming in, new ideas are coming in because of the changes in the world, right? Social, cultural, political, economic, and technological changes are there in the world, right? So with that, we have to study educational philosophy and its evolution. Right. Then, in the ancient period, you can see the main ideas, right? Now you can understand how people thought those days. They wanted to develop the actually spiritual development, right? And they thought of holistic development as well. But main focus was on virtues, ethics, right? And the reason for things, and preparing or producing good citizens. Even nowadays, we can accept this, right? That's the reason why we cannot discard the ancient ideas, right? We cannot say that they are outdated. They are relevant for all the time. They are relevant for today as well. So that's why we are studying these things and how they try to develop those people, develop individuals, and how they have planned their education, right? Based on educational philosophy, they have planned and they have implemented their different systems of education in different countries. And these key figures, that means the famous philosophers in that era, I think we discussed Plato's idea in detail the other day. And there are Socrates. I think Plato is Socrates. Yeah, Plato's teacher was Socrates. And then there was Aristotle, and then there are some Greek and Roman philosophers, right? Yes. Then according to these philosophers, they they were just they were discussing, they were aiming at education, maybe at different angles, right? Now, for example, you can see Socrates' ideas, and according to his idea, the aim of education was to awaken the student to truth and virtue. But nowadays, what do you think of that? Right? Yeah, based on these ideas, we know that from time to time we have, and all the whole world has actually planned their curriculum. This is the education system. Then Plato's idea, you can remember the talents of the individual and then the society as well. And Aristotle emphasized empirical studies. Right? And then Greek, Roman philosophies, structured educational systems, and they developed and holistic development. That means intellectual, physical, moral development. Now, mind, body, spirit, right? Just like we just say knowledge, attitude, skills. In the same way, we can say intellectual, physical, and moral development of a person is important according to what they said. And virtues are important. The Greek models and Roman values, Roman models as well. So then the whole world have accepted those ideas and make use of the ideas, and we can just select whatever relevant to the society of studying them in detail. For you, think that you have remember all these ideas, but the philosophers like Plato and Plato, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and John Dewey, they are very important and their ideas are. I know the other philosophers very important, but in the Sri Lankan education system, we consider. And there's Maria Montessori, even the preschools. There were people from Sri Lanka, and they and some is to follow from Maria Montessori, like those methods of education and philosophies put forward by those people. They are very important, and then the Sri Lanka also try to get the maximum out of their education systems and their ideas. Right. Then we move on to the second period. Now please understand there are how many eras did we discuss or do discuss? How many? Can't you remember? Right? 4. Okay. Ancient, medieval, modern, and 20 and 21st centuries. Right. The religious perspectives, right, dominated by the religious idea, Christianity and Islamic ideas, right? And understanding God was how you teach medieval literature. There are also, you can see the influence of the different religions, right? So then we can just focus our attention on early Christian thinkers and then Muslims or Islamic scholars, right? And then scholastic thinkers like Thomas Aquinas, again he is an father, okay? And then you can just say by that time the rise of universities in Europe. There was a significant development in the field of education and educational philosophy. So then we can understand that the religious influence was also there. Still, we discuss their ideas, the Christian theologies, and then their philosophies, and then with the universities, we study law and medicine. They have started studying law and medicine at that time. That's about medieval period from 5th century to, that's a long period, 15th century, right? Then we just say modern period, 16th century to 19th century. Yeah, we focus on individualism, human rights, right? So then critical thinking is important according to that era. And the scientific inquiry, right? The science, the emergence of science was also there in the modern period. And there are philosophers or the educationists like um, Michel de Montaigne and then John Locke, right? Now just think of 1533 to 1592 and then John Locke 1632 to 1704, right? So then we are coming little by little coming to the recent past, right? Then their approaches are very important. And then you see John Locke is focusing on self-discipline and practical skills, right? So then they are very important for our education system. Still about the modern period, sorry, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we discussed his philosophy in detail. You know, he emphasized the child's natural development and we should give the child the freedom for education. And you know, the child is born good and then the society is corrupting him. Society making him a bad person or a good person, right? So then education should allow the child to learn through experience and with the nature. That's Rousseau's idea, right? Then Immanuel Kant from 1724 to 1804, right? He focused on moral education, right? And then ability to think for oneself. Like that, his idea is different from Rousseau's ideas. But we can't say Rousseau's ideas are very important and Immanuel Kant's ideas are not. No, you can just think of different situations and different angles of educational philosophy. Right. The other two ideas are also important. The child-centered education, right? And then the other thing is emphasizing play and activity method, right? About the early childhood development. Then the last one, 20th and 21st centuries. Right. So you may get more ideas on 20th and 21st centuries. More concepts are coming in like social justice, experiential learning, impact of psychology and especially technology on education, right? The influence of technology is also there in 20th and 21st centuries. Key figures. We say John Dewey. John Dewey is from 1859 to 1952, right? That's even after the Sri Lankans got independence, right? We got in independence in 1948, but here John Dewey's period was still 1952, and progressivism is his idea, right? And then learning by doing, experiential learning, problem solving, those things are emphasized by John Dewey, and especially the concept of student-centered education, right? And the democratic society, role of education in a democratic society. Okay, so then these ideas are considered in the system of education when planning the curriculum, when implementing the curriculum, right? Then Maria Montessori, especially about the preschool age, right? That's why we have preschools called Montessori. We are Montessori going age, like that, small children might say. Okay, Maria Montessori, she is from 1870 to 1952. The method developed by her is said it is called Montessori method. Okay, that's very important. Montessori method for small children. Right. Yes. Then there are some more philosophers and more ideas, as we discussed earlier. Critical pedagogy, the teaching learning process, and we said constructivism, and I think you have studied Jean Piaget, and then we discussed earlier essentialism and perennialism, right? Then feminist, multiculturalist, and postmodern perspectives, right? So all these ideas should be taken into consideration. You have to study all these ideas. Okay. There were 4 eras in the when we consider the evolution of education and philosophy. In the ancient era, these things had been discussed, and then the latest era, the 20th and the 21st centuries, nowadays we just get new things, right? But we don't discard, or we don't just think that, or we don't ignore the ancient great philosophers, their philosophical ideas, right? So then you can understand how education, philosophy has been developed so far, right? All these things are necessary for planning and implementing the curriculum in a country, the education system in a country. Right. Then I want you all to watch that video once again after I shared. I think I've given you the link, and watch that video and get more and more ideas and get things clarified if you are not sure. Right? If you have any doubts, you may ask me as well today. If not, you can just read whatever given here in the PowerPoint presentation and watch the movie, and there might be some more videos, and you will understand the importance of ancient philosophical ideas. At the same time, the new ideas like constructivism and then the essentialism as well, right? Yes, let's, okay. Right. Then we always speak about, or we just discussed what education is. what is meant by philosophy, right? I think by now you can define the two terms. Can anybody tell me on with your own words what you mean by education or what you mean by philosophy? Can some one of you tell me or just send me your idea to the chat box? Education and philosophy, the two terms, right? We are discussing it. This is the fourth day, I think, or fourth day. What's education? What can you? By now, I think you should be able to define the two terms. You may just study all the philosophical ideas, all the definitions on education, right? All the meanings of the word education and prepare your own definition. Now, you might say education means the development of knowledge, attitudes, and skills of an individual, right? That's what you think. Then you might say, sometimes you might say, education should focus on the holistic development of an individual, right? Like that, you can define education using your own words. In the same way, you can define the term philosophy. Can you take 2 minutes and just send me your own definition? You can refer to the previous notes if you have. You can use some, the equipment you have. Maybe you can just go for Google search. But there you get some other person's idea. But I think by now, as a teacher, you have to define it. Can you? Yes. Before you go forward, I think at least 2, 3 people. Huh? Can't you define? Yes. And we discussed that education is a lifelong process, right? It is a womb to tomb process according to Mahatma Gandhi. And we all can accept that, right? Because there are things for us to learn from birth to death. And there are different aspects of education. Maybe you can just see formal, informal, and non-formal education. Huh? Informal education actually we start maybe in the mother's womb or just after the birth. We observe people and we imitate. You can just think of a small child and how they ask for water at the beginning without just telling you one or two words, and maybe they use gestures and they look at people and they try to imitate them. They observe their immediate family members, and according to what they need, they make different sounds. If they are angry, they show their anger. If they are hungry, again, they show their hunger. And then they try to express their needs, express what they want, right? Ask for what they want, right? A child. Then the child starts formal education at school, at the proper age, and the formal education is designed in a properly planned curriculum, and there's a specific place for formal education. But for informal education, maybe you can learn things at home, you can just see things at the bus halt and learn things. Huh? You may just speak to people at the religious places and you learn them. Maybe you go to different participate in different meetings, associations, and there you learn things. That's all these are very informal, right? All the informal situations. So there you learn things and we call them informal education. And at the same time, you engage in non-formal education like this. This is according to your own plan, your own wish. You selected the institution and the study course and the timetable and the study mode as well, maybe the online or on-site. Hmm? Like that, that's non-formal education. So if you think of education, you can specially think of in a wider angle, right? Education, the word education, you can write an essay on it, right? Because you have to describe it properly. In the same way, the word philosophy, you can just define the two terms, right? And then what philosophy means. Okay, right. So then, can I get your ideas? Quickly send me your ideas on education and philosophy and your definitions, how you describe the two terms. No idea? Why is that? Can you all hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Philip. Yes. How can we define the term education? Can somebody do it? Maybe you have your previous notes. No? Right. Okay. Everyone, please try to define the two terms and then try to understand what we mean by educational philosophy. Right. Now, dependence of education on philosophy. Right. What do you mean by the word dependence? Now, you know, when you go abroad, you just say there's the visa procedure for students and student dependent. What is it? Depend on the student, right? Student is asking for visa, applying for visas, and then another person, maybe the partner, then he or she can apply as a student dependent. Dependent means try to depend on the students. That means they should, yes, one should get the help of the other. Right? Now here, dependence or the help or the assistance of education on philosophy. To develop philosophy, we need education. Right? And to develop education, we need philosophy. Right? Now, there's an interaction. Now, relationship between education and philosophy is very important. You know, there's an interaction and that is over dependent, or then there's overlapping ideas, right? Now, philosophical ideas evolve and are tested in the arena of educational practice. And the challenges and the experiences within education can prompt new philosophical inquiries, okay, and perspectives. Okay, the education can prompt new philosophical ideas. That's why from time to time, with the people's education, we get new philosophical ideas. Right? Now, great philosophers throughout history have also been great educators. Recognizing the link between philosophical thought and the shaping of minds and societies, right? Can you understand these? Right? Once again, please focus your attention on the relationship between education and philosophy. It is very strong, right? And it's interactive, okay? And then philosophical ideas on educational practice and the challenges and the experiences within education can prompt new ideas, right? Education can prompt new philosophies. Why people learn more and more things, and then they can think of wider perspectives, right? They can go for different angles and they can go for lot of inquiries, research, and different perspectives. Then we get more and more philosophies, more and more philosophical ideas. Okay? Then we spoke about the history. There were number of philosophers, right? In the ancient era, there were maybe very few people, very few philosophers. They became very famous after that. Why? Everyone tries to study their philosophies. But nowadays, in the present day education systems, we get number of philosophers and number of new concepts, new theories, new philosophical ideas put forward by different educationists or different philosophers. Okay? Right. Then you can just think of the interdependence of the two. Philosophy sets the goals and education strives to achieve them. Right? This is not very interesting for you, but only thing is you have to study these things and expand your knowledge. Okay? Right. Education has to achieve the goals set by philosophy. Philosophy provides the why and education addresses the how. That means philosophy asks a question and education shows how to do it, right? How to answer the question, how to provide the answer, right? Then education without philosophy is blind, lacking direction and purpose. Now, that idea is very important and commonly accepted and commonly used. Why? Even for a teacher, right? Now, remember this idea. Even for a teacher, even for a school, even maybe for a school managers, the principal, and directors or the authorities in the Ministry of Education, without a philosophy, education won't be successful. Right? Think of your schools. You sometimes criticize the activities in your schools. You sometimes criticize the principal of your school. He doesn't, sorry. Right. You sometimes say the principal doesn't care about anything. The principal doesn't take the correct action, right? And sometimes you speak about the teachers. That particular teacher doesn't teach well. She doesn't manage her class well, then it is a disturbance to the whole school, right? And if something happens, there's a message from somebody. What's it? Yeah, okay. Don't worry about the PowerPoint presentation. I am sharing because later on I came to know that the PowerPoint presentations can be shared with the students. Then I have included more information. Otherwise, when we prepare PowerPoint presentations, we don't include this much information in a slide. But I did it because I share this with you, and then you will be able to read and understand, get a proper idea. So don't worry, I'll share this at the end of the session. Okay? Yes, I am just including all this information. You can study all these things and you can just prepare your own notes, right, for your study. Okay? And what we were discussing here is the third one. Without a philosophy, everything goes blind. No direction, no purpose, no achievement, right? So then there's a philosophy. Then you also have to think of your philosophy. Now, if you think that the children may be overcrowded classrooms at school and children behave differently nowadays, it's really difficult for us to manage the class. But you think of your classroom policies and think of the age of the children and their needs and how to attend to their problems, how to address their problems. You have to think of those ideas and study these ideas, and you may get some of the ideas from our discussions also, and then try to be more effective in the classroom. Okay, right. Philosophy without education is impotent, not very active, as it deals if as its ideals cannot be effectively realized, right? Because educated people can only put forward a philosophy, right? If there's philosophy and the person without education, I think we sometimes do not accept some people's ideas, right? That means it's not a proper idea for us to learn or for us to accept. Then education should be there. Based on education, the philosophy can be developed, right? Then you can understand that the interactive nature of education and philosophy. Okay? And one depend on the other, right? Right. Let's move on to the next idea. Dependence of philosophy on education. The interaction, right? Now, you can understand, and we have discussed and we repeatedly discussed, philosophy provides the guiding principles. So philosophy guides the system of education in a country, right? In the same way, education serves as the laboratory or serves as the background, the place where philosophy to be tested and transmitted and to be developed. Okay. Once again, you can see the idea, the correct idea, because the interdependence of philosophy and education. The relationship is truly interdependent and dynamic, with each field enriching and shaping the other. Yes, the field is, field of education and field of the philosophical ideas or the new philosophies, right? Then each field enriching and shaping the other. I think that part you can easily understood, right? Now, now, interdependent nature of these two. That's very important for us, right? So then we say teacher should be a philosopher. At the same time, you know that you are educated. You got the benefit of education, right? And you impart knowledge. You impart education to a group of students. So then, how you impart knowledge and how you gather knowledge, right? Once you thought of that, now there's also a philosophy, right? Now you learned different subjects. Now, you know the curriculum of this Bachelor of Education study course. There are different subjects because as a teacher, you have to learn all these subjects. The integration, the interdependence of these subjects make you a better teacher, right? They make you to think critically. All these subjects develop your creativity. Okay? All these subjects help you to reflect on your practice. Right? Like that, there are different aspects of your teaching career, and we need all these different subjects. At the same time, we need educational philosophy. As a teacher, you have to develop a personal philosophy, right? Education provides the context and material for philosophical reflection, right? Now, philosophy depends on education. How? Education provides the background. Education gives you the context and the material for philosophical reflection, right? Now, your education helps you to think philosophically. If you are not educated enough to be a teacher, then how can you reflect on a lesson? If you do not know the correct strategies to be used in the classroom, then you can't reflect on your practice, right? And you all have learned by now the methodology to be used in the classroom, the teaching learning materials or the teaching learning aids to be used in the classroom, and which materials to be used by the teacher, which materials are to be used by the students, and how we have to organize different activities in the classroom, right? And then the maybe especially the students should be active in the classroom, how you can make them active, and then the democratic nature to be maintained in the classroom between the teacher and the students, at the same time among students, right? All these things are your previous knowledge, right? That means your education. Then, with that type of education, for example, you may reflect on your practice, reflect on your teaching, right? Please understand that. So, then, who provided the context for philosophical reflection? Your education. Without such education, how can you reflect? That's a question. I think that's a simple example for you to understand, right? The practical challenges of education drive philosophical innovation and the development of new theories. Right. Now, we we discussed the type of philosophy or the philosophical evolvement from the ancient era, right? Now, from time to time, you saw the different concepts came into being. And at the same time, you know the practical challenges in the system of education. Nowadays, some experienced teachers might tell you at school, earlier the students were not like that, right? Not like this, but they behaved very well. And we didn't face these problems in the recent past, right? And maybe they scold at the parents, right? Maybe they can scold at or put the blame on modern technology. mm? And the teachers can just say the authorities are wrong. Why? The classes are overcrowded, and there's not enough space, and there's not, you can say, you don't get enough resources. Huh? Like that, you may face practical problems. And then people have to think critically, people have to be innovative, people have to be creative, and then find solutions. Then think of new ideas, innovations, especially philosophical innovations. Why? We have to face all these challenges in the system of education successfully. Our teaching should be effective, right? Therefore, new theories are being developed, right? They have developed new theories and they have put forward and they came into being, and we are still using some of the expert philosophical ideas. Some of the expert ideas from the education is we all use them. And new things are coming in. Earlier, when we were writing lesson plans, there was a separate structure. By now, you got different models, like you got, we still, earlier we wrote 3P model, presentation, practice, production model. And now I think in some schools you use 5E model. In some countries, they use 7E model. Like that, new ideas are coming into being. Therefore, these ideas, these recommendations are based on their philosophical innovations, right? Why do we need philosophical innovations? To face the modern day challenges in the system of education, right? You get behavioral problems. You actually come to know with the children with maybe they are differently abled, they are maybe mentally disturbed, right? So, like that, you have to understand all these differences, and the children's problems are also becoming different day by day. Maybe children also face different sorts of problems, not like the children in the past, right? So, like that, for all these things influence the new philosophies, but the thing is, philosophy should be based on education. That particular philosophy, maybe the person is educated and then he can become a philosopher and put forward more and more ideas to develop. Okay, sorry about the disturbance. I think there's a technical error. I think network issue. I'll once again share. Right. Can you all see now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Right. Then the last point we have to discuss here. Education is the crucial mechanism for disseminating. Disseminating means making something public. Now, once you do a research and after that you get the findings, right? You can publish it in a book and then you can maybe disseminate the results or the findings with maybe a group of teachers. You can get together in a place and you can just discuss and reveal what you have gathered, what you have uh, researched and found. Okay, right. Then disseminating philosophical ideas and cultivating philosophical thinking. Yes. Now, I think after listening to these lessons from the very beginning, this is the fourth day, so you can just have an idea, right? for education, only the knowledge is not enough, right? To become a teacher, you think that if somebody thinks that, all right, I know everything, or I know the language well, I am fluent and I can just read and write, I know the grammar, then I can teach it well to my students, right? But to teach it, to teach the subject, first of all, that's true, we have to study the subject and learn the necessary context, right? The content as well. And then the imparting knowledge, right? Imparting knowledge and the development of the necessary skills, right? These things are very important. As a teacher, you have to educate yourself, right? Now, if you think of the school system, grades 1 to 13, and the students are different level. The way you teach grade 1 children, you can't teach grade 6. You can't teach grade 11. Like that, there are differences, right? So then, the strategy for disseminating, the strategy for revealing the truth, the strategy for making public the findings or the ideas of a philosopher, right? Maybe you have to think of informing people about an innovation. Hmm? So you have to think of the correct strategy, right? The correct mechanism for that. So the people use nowadays, you can use different strategies. Maybe you can use different media. Sometime earlier in the past, we just got the TV and whatever the maybe print media or electronic media. But now, if you say electronic media, there's a lot. And you can go for Facebook, you can go for WhatsApp groups and LinkedIn, and all these things are the platforms for us to use for disseminating. Then, based on your education, you use the correct platform, right? We sometimes don't know how to use technology, right? And if the person is well educated on technology, then he or she might use it easily, use it comfortably. But for us, it's totally new. And we use it actually with the what during those years we got the COVID-19 pandemic, and those days only we started using the online platforms for teaching. Huh? And at the same time, even though we are using online platforms, we use PowerPoint presentations. And even with the PowerPoint presentation and with an online session like this, we can do grouping and we can share and we can have debates. We can have the presentations from the students' part, and we can let the students prepare presentations, and then let them share with the group, and then let them explain whatever they want, right? Like that, there are differences depending on our on education, right? And the thinking process is also very important. Why? Our thinking process based on our education, right? So then people have to think of their own education for revealing the philosophical ideas, right? So then philosophy education becomes the context for philosophy, right? Education becomes the Education becomes the background for philosophy, and at the same time, education becomes the strategy or the method or the mode for philosophy, right? Now you see education helps us to get the background knowledge. Education helps us to get the knowledge on different subjects, identifying people, identifying children. Now, for example, if you are studying child psychology, then you can study a lot on children, and then you study educational psychology, and you study educational measurement and evaluation, then you know how to measure the students' performance in the class. Like that, education helps you to think of philosophical ideas. Or maybe education paves the way for you to be a philosopher, right? Based on your education, based on people's education, they put forward number of new philosophies to us, right? At the very beginning, I mentioned, and in that video also, we got new philosophies in the 21st and 20th centuries, right? And then in your practical situations, practical challenges in the education system, then only you can broaden the way you think, right? You have to maybe, uh, based on the problems you face day by day, you can think of new solutions, right? The problem I face today might be, or especially it should be, it has to be different from your own experience, right? So then there are differences and there are different challenges. Based on those challenges, new philosophies are coming. At the same time, there are new philosophies and people research or people study and then they invent or they get or they research and then they get new philosophical ideas. They have to make the other people aware of his or her findings, and they have to think of the correct method for making people aware of his or her own philosophy. At the same time, cultivating philosophical thinking. That means now we are trying to do that. We are trying to cultivate philosophical thinking among teachers. That means you all, right? So then I think with our discussions, you can understand that philosophy is very important for us to teach, for us to continue our career, for us to understand the working context, work with the management, work with the children, right? Having a favorable situation, having comfortable interrelations with the people. Hmm? For all these things, these philosophical ideas are really important for each and every teacher. Okay? Right. Any questions regarding this? Yes? Right. If you don't have a question, okay, I came to the very beginning. Quickly give me your answers. Everyone, please just send your answers to the chat box. Why do you study education philosophy? Yes, quickly send me your answers. Okay. Why do you study education philosophy? That's my question. Send me one of your answers because you have many reasons. We studied many reasons. We discussed many reasons. But except those, they are just examples, right? Now we discussed some examples here. So you might think broad in a broad manner. You can think critically and you can think of one reason why I study educational philosophy. Okay, everyone get ready and send me your answers. Now I can stop sharing this and I'll try to. Yes. Send me your answers, please. No idea. Okay, to take a correct decision on the teaching learning process or the purpose of teaching and your real life situations, right? Any other ideas? To encourage critical thinking. Encourage critical thinking, yes. That means you have to develop your critical thinking. At the same time, you can encourage the students to think critically. Okay. Any other? Yeah, develop both capacity and inclination to do right. Critical thinking, right? Yes, critical thinking is actually only one aspect for us, but it's necessary, right? Yes. To motivate personal and professional growth of an individual. Yeah, maybe your personal and professional growth or some other individual. Okay, right. Any others, please? To understand the educational goals. Okay, now I am going to share the presentation with you. Right. Okay, just tell me whether you got it or not.
No.
Right. I think
We
no.
received. We received, man. Now.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I think you all got it. Now, I have included all the necessary information, all the points there, because actually there are a lot of stuff in slides, because that I wanted you to be aware of all these things, and I wanted to make you all comfortable with this, and then read all these and then try to get an idea and why we learn educational philosophy. You should understand that, and at the same time, what we mean by educational philosophy and the interdependent nature of education and philosophy. All these things are very important for your job. At the same time, for your studies here in the course, right? Is there anything that you want to get clarified? Any problem so far? No?
No,
Right.
ma'am.
All right, thank you. I advise everyone to study the slides well, read them well, and then you want to research on these ideas. And I gave you the link for the video, and you can listen to that, watch it well, and get those ideas and get ready to write answers to the questions. And I think there will be 2 assignments, and then very soon you will be getting the topics. Therefore, your dedication is very important. Otherwise, you will be, you will be in trouble, and you will be burdened actually towards the end. Now, you can, if you just update everything, then there won't be a problem. Okay? Right. Then thank you, everyone. Then we can meet tomorrow as well. Right. See you tomorrow then.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Good night. Welcome.